remember with us today this story from Exodus 32, the story of Moses and a restless people.
Now, when the people saw that Moses was delayed coming down from the mountain, well, they went to Aaron and they said, "Come on, Aaron, make us some gods to go before us, because this guy Moses, well, we don't know what's become of him."
And Aaron said to the people, "Okay, take the gold rings from your ears, the ears of your wives and your sons and your daughters, and bring it to me."
Good idea.
Let's get some gold.
Let's get some gold.
Who's got some gold?
Remember, both earrings.
Okay, gold.
Thank you. Great. Thank you,
gold
Barbara.
up there in the balcony. Throw it down.
Come on. Cynthia, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go. Oh, we've got
Chip,
more.
I know you're trying to take those with you. Thank you so much.
Any on the ears?
Thank you.
More gold. Okay.
Got a lot of gold here.
We got enough?
Got enough, I think.
Okay.
Thank you. Got a lot of gold. Okay.
So all the people took the gold from their ears and brought it to Aaron.
Ooh. Now Aaron took it and he formed it into a mold and then cast it into an image of a calf. And then the people said, Here are your gods who brought you up out of Egypt." When Aaron heard that, he quickly built an altar and he made a proclamation. "People, tomorrow will be a festival day to the Lord." So the people rose early and brought burnt offerings and other sacrifices of well-being. No, that's enough. Come on. Then they went, sat down, and they ate and drank.
What's up?
Wine? Wine, anybody? Wine?
There you go.
What's up?
Cheers!
Cheers! All right. Here we go. Then they all got up and they indulged in revelry. Come on, party! Celebrate good times. Come on, everybody up. Come on, let's go. Woo, woo, woo. Party time. Woo, woo.
When the Lord saw what was going on, the Lord said to Moses, "Get down there at once. Why, your people, the ones you brought up out of Egypt, look at them. They're acting perversely." Oh, yes. They have been quick to turn from my command. Or they fashioned an image of a calf and they worshipped it and they sacrificed to it, and they even said, "Oh, Israel, these are our gods, the gods who brought us up out of Egypt."
Then God said to Moses, "I know this people. They are stiff-necked. They are downright stubborn. Let me alone, Moses, so that my wrath may burn hot against them and consume them." But you, Moses, not to worry, for from you alone I will make a great nation. But Moses said to the Lord, imploring the Lord, "Oh Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people? Your people who you led up and out of Egypt with your mighty power and your great hand." What? Do you want the Egyptians to say that it was with evil intent that their God? Well, that would be you, God. brought them out of Egypt only to kill them in the mountains and to consume them off the face of the earth. No.
Turn from your fierce wrath, O Lord, and do not bring this destruction against your people. Change your mind. Remember Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Jacob, all your servants, and the promises you made with your own self, saying, I will make of your descendants like the stars in the heavens, and all this land that I have promised, they shall inherit forever. And the mind of the Lord was changed about the destruction that the Lord had planned to bring on the people, Israel. And the mind of the Lord was changed.
This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Yeah. A colleague loves college football, especially the Southeastern Conference. And he quotes the first line of a book entitled God and Football. It reads, "Welcome to the American South, where God and football scrimmage daily for the hearts and minds of the people." The book highlights the importance of both football and religion to many Southerners. By imagining what conclusions an alien would reach if he happened to visit a college town during the fall football season. On Sunday morning, he would witness people walking into a large, beautiful structure with a high steeple. The alien would note that many of the people simply mouthed the words to some songs, and then they struggled to stay focused while one person spoke for 20 minutes. For the rest of the week, this place was not anywhere in their minds unless there was a tragic event in the world. On Saturday, the alien would witness something entirely different. People would carefully choose an outfit based on the good fortune it had brought them in the past. They would drive, some for hours, to a place with large brick buildings, beautiful trees, connecting sidewalks. They would eat, drink, and enjoy the company of friends and family and strangers. Then at the appointed time, all would enter a colossal shrine and join tens of thousands of people similarly dressed and like-minded. Inside, they would chant and sing so hard they would lose their voices. And afterward, they would celebrate as if they were at the greatest wedding reception. After seeing all this, what will the alien think? He will think he has found the true religion and convert on the spot. What is your true religion? What claims your ultimate authority? Who or what is your true God? We return to the Moses saga, and today's episode is a familiar one. Moses has led the people from the crossing of the sea through the wilderness, and it's taken a great deal of time, but they have finally reached the base of Mount Sinai. Along the way, they've encountered life-threatening events. When they ran out of water, God provided. When they were hungry, manna for meals. Their difficult journey continued until they hit Mount Sinai. And at the mountain, Moses leaves the people, and he treks to the top, where he will have a meeting with God. The text indicates that God has descended from heaven and is on the mountain. Now, the details of this story remind us that it derives from ancient times, when people pictured the world as a simple three-story universe. Heaven up there, earth in the center of the universe, a flat plane, and hell down below. Moreover, there is no concept of God permeating every crevice of creation. Rather, God is envisioned as a divine being who generally resides somewhere up there in heaven, but occasionally swoops down to earth to intervene in the natural flow of events. Now, if we take the details of this story literally, we render it unbelievable and insignificant. It seems simply like a relic of a time long gone. However, if we approach this story as a historical drama, an account based on historical events, but revealing common human experiences, then we may just be able to locate ourselves in this story and hear what we need to hear. A quick recap of events leading up to this episode reminds us that God first spoke to Moses out of a burning bush. God called Moses to go back to Egypt to liberate all of his Hebrew fellow people who were being held as slaves. Moses did not believe he was capable of such work, and so he did a great deal of whining. But God assured him that he was indeed the one. Like Moses, God calls us, and we often respond by trying to find some way out. Moses confronted Pharaoh, and eventually Pharaoh relented. And we too must find the courage at times to confront the pharaohs of our lives, especially the powers of greed and injustice. After the Hebrews had seemingly broke free from their slavery, Pharaoh had second thoughts. He gathered his army and took off after the Hebrews in the wilderness. He wanted to recapture them, take them back to Egypt. We too can break free from the habits and thoughts that are killing us, only to discover that they're pursuing us again and again. The Hebrews reached the sea, and the oppressors are closing in on them. This became a liminal moment for the people where they crossed a boundary. They crossed from slavery to freedom, from death to life. We too face these transition points in our lives where we can be liberated from the demons intent on alienating us from one another and working to erode the ties that bind us together. Today, we wrestle with those moments when our journey toward the promised land gets delayed. Such times can feel as if God has abandoned us, and we're tempted to forge our own path apart from God. Now, when Moses trekked up the mountain, he left Aaron in charge of the people. Days pass. Moses doesn't return. Weeks pass. Moses doesn't return. They begin to wonder what has happened to the one who anchors them in their connection to God and mediates God's message to them. They begin to murmur, "What's keeping Moses? Doesn't he care about us? Do you think he might have slipped away in the darkness? Maybe he's gone back to his father-in-law, just tending sheep, and left us out here in the wilderness all alone." And if Moses has deserted us, maybe God has too. There are times when God's presence is palpable. It could be a moment when we are awed by God's creation. A sunset that splatters salmon-colored clouds across the sky. Or we peer into the Grand Canyon and we're just overwhelmed by its vastness. God's Spirit may have blown through you when you were standing at the bedside of a loved one and she finally woke up from the coma. Or maybe God was palpable when you heard hauntingly beautiful music that struck a chord deep within you. Or you held a newborn infant to your chest and your cheeks became wet with gratitude. God's love may have overcome you when a broken relationship was mended, or an act of kindness brought peace to someone who thought he was unworthy. God may have whispered into your soul through a fragment of Scripture or a line in a prayer that helped you know this is what you need to do. Or possibly moments before a loved one was gone, there were tender words and a soft embrace, and God filled you with the assurance that all will be well. There are occasions when God seems especially near, and we can't find the words to express the joy we feel. However, as we know, there are other times, aren't there? Other times when God seems very far away. Feelings of insecurity or fear blanket us like a heavy shroud. There are times of disappointment when the fuel gauge on our soul is pointing to empty. And we become testy and cynical. There are times when sadness penetrates every fiber of our body and we feel weak and vulnerable. This might be what happened to the Hebrew people who gave up hope that Moses was ever going to return to them and guide them to their new home. They felt they had lost their link with God. So, with the help of Moses' brother Aaron, they created a golden calf. Now, the Hebrews were not so simple that they worshipped an inanimate object fashioned with their own hands. The golden calf was a symbol. It represented a god that they had seen was worshipped back in Egypt. It represents their new choice of gods. Moses and the God who liberated them from slavery were fine for a time. But now Moses hasn't returned and God seems so absent. We'll just switch allegiances, find another God. I fear that the same can be true of us. When we do not feel close to God, we're susceptible to substitute gods. Entertainment to distract us. Glittering new possessions to make us feel good. Stock portfolios to reassure us. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with these things in themselves. It's when they edge out God that trouble brews. After the Hebrews have their handcrafted idol, their behavior disintegrates and God erupts. The passage says revelry, as the women were dancing earlier. The Hebrew is actually, they had an orgy. God has just recently given them the 10 Commandments, plus additional laws. They've already broken the first 2. Have no other gods, make no idols. Now, the commandments are not given so that the people can be punished when they don't live up to them. but rather to provide them and us with guidelines for living. Before they reach their destination, before they reach that spot called the Promised Land, they must learn how to foster a just and equitable community. They cannot steal, kill, lie, or covet. It cannot be every man for himself, or they will never achieve the kind of community God wants them to become. Our passage includes this heated and somewhat amusing exchange between Moses and God. When God sees the idol and how the people are behaving, God says to Moses, "Go down at once. Your people, who you brought out of Egypt, have gone crazy. They've been quick to turn away from the way I commanded them. I've seen how stiff-necked these people can be. Let me alone so my wrath can burn hot against them." Moses responds, "Why does your wrath burn hot against your people who you brought out of Egypt?" Then Moses must convince God that it would be disastrous PR if God annihilated these people after liberating them from slavery. Now, please don't take this comical exchange between Moses and God too literally. It would reduce the creator of the cosmos to a petty deity who has anger management issues. It would portray God as an unforgiving judge who's far less understanding than the average human parent. And it would undermine the divine message that God liberates the oppressed. The point of this exchange is that God becomes exasperated when we fail to live as God has shown us. This is a timeless message. But in the shadow of the ugliest presidential election in history, this needs to be on the front burner for people of faith. Have we not only turned football, but also politics into our new religion? Your candidate may have won, your candidate may have lost. But whether you are feeling victorious or defeated, this campaign took a heavy toll on the people of this nation. We are so sharply divided. One candidate won the Electoral College, the other one got the most votes. Many want to fight ill will with more ill will. But people of faith, we are called to fight mean-spiritedness with kindness. We're called to oppose prejudice with acceptance. We're called to oppose disdain with respect, dishonesty with truth, hostility with love. We must resist the temptation to believe that we are totally virtuous and our opponents are fully corrupt. We must oppose injustice and strive for what is right, not in the eyes of one political party or another, but what is right and true and good in the eyes of God. It will not be easy, but that cannot deter us. In every age has had difficulty following the path of God. As a nation, we now face an enormous challenge. How will you respond?